Greetings Marines, FiOth here, back from vacation, not that it lasted that long anyway, and today we'll be talking a bit about the state of Aliens Dark Descent. As you probably know if you've been following this channel, when Dark Descent came out about a couple months ago, I covered the living shit out of it, was streaming it pretty much daily and there was a lot of traction and the overall sentiment was very positive. What happened since then has not been as positive though. When the game released, it was a very niche experience with some very interesting mechanics, but was filled with bugs and problems. As time passed on, we got a pretty early patch from Tindalos that made us very optimistic about the overall state of affairs. We're thinking if they hotfix this fast, they will probably keep fixing the game if anything else is detected. And you know that a lot of things were detected when it comes to its performance and stability. Game-breaking bugs and some that would stop progress altogether were in the code, and we were worried about how fast the developer would respond. News were not that good. It took them a good couple to 3 weeks for the first big patch, and the last one we got about 3 weeks ago as of today. The game also made some changes to how certain traits were implemented, and then other traits and perks were changed to make for a more streamlined experience, including the overall removal of the Doom Clock if you wished to remove it in a new campaign. For some reason, many people wanted it gone, and the developers gave us this option. Now the problem is, although those changes were made and are appreciated, the game is still in a pretty poor state. I'm still getting messages from people following the channel saying that I cannot pick up certain data buds, or I'm still getting stuck, or the drone keeps falling through the floor, or whatever. My issue and the reason I'm coming to you today is as follows. I have dedicated an entire day of my week to alien stuff. I will stream something aliens related, and recently I went back and restreamed Alien Isolation, a game I've played to death on stream, including a full nightmare run. So I would love to do something with Dark Descent again because it's right out of the pan, it's fresh, but there is really nothing to do. The issue with this game is twofold. On one side of the spectrum, you have a game that's still pretty buggy, although it's been patched a couple of times with pretty substantial patches. On the other hand, it's the epitome of the one and out experience. And I kinda have to scratch my head when it comes to the removal of the Doom Clock. Because if the Doom Clock is something that can be so easily fixed, well, quote unquote fixed, because there's nothing wrong with the Doom Clock. We've been playing XCOM games for years now and no one died. But if it was so easy for them to address the public demand, let's say, why did they stop there? And I'm gonna give you an example of what I think would be very feasible. Why not offer a slider or options menu that would dictate how the hunt mechanic works, for example. Let's say instead of starting a hunt, if one lone xenomorph saw you, you would have to exterminate the single drone or warrior or Praetorian before a timer ran out instead of an instant detection, let's say. That would make things interesting. How about another option that would make bosses like queens uber effective? An actual very challenging scenario, because as you'll be able to see in a few minutes from what I'm showing you here, queens go down like turds in this game, and I wouldn't expect an opponent in a tactical game to be super tanky, but you know, something to mix things up. What this game sorely lacks is the ability to mix things up. And because the Aliens franchise has always been in a pretty strange spot when it comes to video games. I was playing some Far Team Elite with the boys recently. It was kind of a nightmare, the game is buggy as fuck, they left it to its fate, but I've been thinking about the card system they had implemented in Fire Team Elite. A lot of variables to create pretty much your own fun, or if you're a masochist, to create your own suffering. Why don't we get a system like this in Dark Descent? I'm not talking some overly extravagant and extensive development project like let's make a campaign for the Xenomorphs, let's make a campaign for the Cultists. Nothing like that. Modifiers. Fill this sucker up with modifiers and let the people enjoy it in a different way. Put a long war modifier, for example, like in XCOM, like the mod in XCOM. The modding community has been doing interesting stuff for years when it comes to games like this. Why can't the developers think some of these things up? A long war where you'll have an unavoidable doom clock, but it will be 6 months. Or an always all alert mode where the enemies would always be alert of your presence and attacking you, but not en masse, so you will be able to make progress. It will be just a layer of constant pressure. There is a ton of ideas they could have approached, but they did pretty much nothing. They just heard that people didn't like the doom clock, they took the doom clock out of the equation, and after that it was just the game. And the problem with the game is that even on Nightmare, if you understand what you're doing, you can easily beat it on your first playthrough on Nightmare if you have a good understanding of the mechanics, or if that's deemed too difficult, you can have a second playthrough that will last you about 5 to 6 hours, and then you've done literally everything available in the game. And that's not a very good look. I'm pairing this with the lack of support to come to this conclusion, because it is a 40 euros game, or dollars according to where you are, and Remnant 2 is a 40 euros or dollars game. And Remnant 2 is getting patched every 3 to 4 days these days, whilst Dark Descent hasn't seen a patch in almost a month. It's not a fledgling studio, it's not something that was created by people who created a development team and started making this thing overnight. Tindalos has experience in this kind of thing, in the Warhammer universe nonetheless. So why didn't they deem it important enough to bring some variety to a game they sold us, especially if they had no plan of continuous support? The good possible news here is that they're already working on some sort of DLC. They're making either added chapters for a campaign. You know that the end of the game is pretty open-ended. There is a ton of room to experiment with new things. Or they're gonna insert some type of additional content that is not tied with missions per se, but maybe new classes or new enemies or new modifiers, as I was saying earlier. But if there is nothing planned and they just made the game like this, and in 2 months time they bring out another patch saying some bug fixes, there will be zero traction for the game altogether. This game exploded for a week and then died like the economy in 2008. The clock just stopped. It went dead. And they killed their module. Now people are not happy with how this turned out, and I don't think many people who didn't want to participate in the experience will want to participate in the experience. They tripped themselves, and people are kind of pissed. I'm getting messages about this, and they're like, oh man, the game at its core is good, I love aliens, I love the strategic approach, but what the fuck are they doing? I don't know if they're doing anything, to be honest. And before you ask me, I have no insider knowledge of what's happening, guys. I'm just a consumer like you. But I wanted to give you my 2 cents on the matter because it's damn same. Like, it's a good game. It's a very good game at its core that has just been left as is. I don't want to deter anyone from investing in the game because it is a work of honest labor. They really put a lot of attention in here, although some things kind of fall through the cracks when you look too closely or listen too closely at them. But it really needs a bit more. Even Alien Isolation, that was so controversial back in the day, and certainly not for everyone, like people were shitting their pants playing Isolation, got DLC and was streamlined to bits. Alien Isolation came out well, technically, and after a few months, it was one of the best running PC games of all time. And it was a fully immersive 3D first-person game. What's so hard to do here, Tindalos? Why are we still seeing shit like I can't pick up this databot? Surely, it's not the most difficult code we've ever worked with. I digress. Let's have a discussion about this, because I know some of you want me to play this and stream it, but I really don't see anything more to do. The only secondary weapon streams I didn't do that well, and people were telling me, dude, there's not enough variety if you approach it like this. Well, what would bring variety to this shit? Let's hear your thoughts on the matter. Thank you very much for watching this. Sub, like, and hit the bell, and if you really want to help the channel out, please consider Patreon, the Buy Me a Coffee platform, or get a membership. Streamers have to eat as well. Until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always have a perfection, peeps. Cheers!